An American epidemic has rapidly spread across the country in the last decade or so. An epidemic that, for the first time in centuries, could very well result in our generation's children living shorter lives than their parents. A growing number of researchers consider this a disease that, according to Scientific American magazine, will soon surpass smoking as the biggest single factor in early death. As this disease expanded across America, it expanded our wastelands along the way, while shortening our lifespans. I'm talking about obesity. Not only are these expanding wastelands a burden on the country's medical system, there is also a societal factor to consider in the form of discrimination and stigma. A culture of fast food and lack of exercise has fostered this rampant growth and placed obesity in the fast lane to becoming an American crisis. Obesity is an American crisis because of the stigma associated with obesity, its rapid rate of spread, and the diseases and conditions associated with it. First, let's look at the social consequences of this epidemic. Obesity carries with it a significant social stigma. Obese individuals face multiple forms of prejudice and discrimination because of their weight. Negative stereotypes associated with obese and overweight individuals portray them as lazy, sloppy, unmotivated, and lacking in self-discipline. So take a look at this first visual here, and if I were to ask you, if you were to pick out one person here who was probably the laziest, who would you think? And I would probably say this one. And if I were to ask you who you think would probably be the most self-disciplined and motivated, probably go with this guy right over here. And Yale University researchers found that weight bias translated into inequities in employment settings, healthcare facilities, as well as educational institutions. Self-report studies conducted by Yale found that 25% of participants experienced job discrimination because of their weight, and 54% reported weight stigma from colleagues. So taking a look at these three individuals here, if you were in the position of an employer, which is the one, with all things being equal, which is the one that you would most likely hire? It would probably be one of these two here, if I were the employer. So examples of discrimination or job discrimination based on weight include being the target of derogatory humor and differential treatment, such as not being hired or also being denied promotions. So in the healthcare sector, one study of over 620 primary care physicians found that over 50% of them viewed obese patients as awkward, unattractive, ugly, and non-compliant, viewing obesity as largely a behavioral problem. In the educational setting, a study using data from the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent Health reported that obese women were half as likely to attend college than non-obese women. Yale researchers also found that evidence is just now beginning to demonstrate that obese students face weight-based stigmatization from teachers, peers, and even parents in the educational setting. So now that we've discussed the social consequences for individuals, let's take a look at obesity in regards to population and how this systemic problem has evolved over the years. The obesity rate has spread at an alarming rate since the late 90s and shows no sign of stopping. According to the National Institutes of Health, obesity refers to a body weight that is at least 30% over the ideal weight for a specified height, or in other words, a BMI of over 30. So, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention claims that more than 1/3 of U.S. adults are obese, the highest rate among all of the high-income countries in the world. Remember that this statistic is for obese individuals, not necessarily overweight individuals. Overweight and obese rates combined make up about 70% of the U.S. population. There was a dramatic increase in obesity in the U.S. From the late 90s up until today. And I'm going to show you a series of visuals here from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention showing obesity rates by state since 2002. So in this first one here, we see the obesity rates, and the blue ones are from about 15% to 19%, and as they get more onto the red side, that's how you know that individuals are becoming more obese. as they get into the red, it shows you that up to 30% of the individuals have become obese. So in the year 2002, you can see that some of the Western states here still have relatively low obesity rates, and a lot of the Midwestern states and the Eastern states are showing 20 to 24% obesity rates. In 2004, you see more states are becoming red. By 2006, there's only one blue state left, and more states are becoming red. 2008, more states are becoming red. By 2010, there are no more blue states. Every single state has an obesity rate of at least 24% here, with more states becoming dark red in the 30% or higher rate. So, considering the rapid increase in incidence of obesity, let's take a look at the most critical reason for it to be an American crisis. Obesity is linked to a great number of other diseases and conditions that cut our lives short. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 80% of people with type 2 diabetes are overweight or obese. Diabetes in itself is the 7th leading cause of death in America. WebMD says that obese individuals also have an increased incidence of heart disease, which is the #1 cause of death and disability in the United States. If that weren't enough, obesity is also related to other conditions to include hypertension, metabolic syndrome, reproduction and sexuality problems, and also thyroid conditions. In my final visual, you will see causes of death in America, and you can see here that cancer, or not cancer, but heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, as well as other, make up a huge percentage of the causes of death in America. And it says here that over 50% of deaths are from obesity-related diseases. So if this alone doesn't constitute a true American crisis, I don't know what does. Clearly, the obesity epidemic is not pretty, both literally and figuratively. If we do not want our children living shorter lives than we do, and with such a rapid rate of spread, there has to be a paradigm shift in our views of nutrition and exercise. If not, issues with the social stigma of obesity will persist, and the quality of life in America will stagnate, with increasing incidences of obesity-related conditions and diseases. Thank you.